Here is how I lean bulked over 20 pounds whilst working a full-time job. Since last year, April 2025, I'm working this job as a delivery driver where I work 6 days a week, 10-hour shifts, doing about over 15,000 steps a day. For someone that was already skinny, weighing in at 54 kg, pretty damn lean, I was training 6 times a week, working 6 times a week now, and all this extra cardio just led to further weight loss. Even though I was training at high intensity, this just meant no recovery, which meant no progress, and just weight loss. I ended up fluctuating for 7 months between 52 to 54 kg. It was like this for a good 7 months before I decided enough is enough and things need to change. So November 2025, I decided, okay, training, we're going to dial in and we're going to look on our diet as well. So that's exactly what I did. On this side here, I was 54 kg, and this is where I'm at right now, April 2026 at 64 kg. Quite the difference, right? Now enough about me. Watch this video to the end, and this will be the last video you need to watch in regards to lean bulking whilst working a full-time job. Before we dive into this video, I'm going to cover some common misconceptions in regards to bulking. So the first thing that I would like to address is the calories in versus calories out approach. This was the initial approach that I used personally to bulk up, and what this led to is me reaching the weight of 60 kg over a period of like 5 years of training. I ended up at 60 kg on this side over here, where I just ended up skinny fat. I ended up with a lot more fat on my physique than I would have liked. I was so far from my dream physique. Honestly, at this point, I was just confused. I don't know how to approach it. So from that is how I end up back at 54 kg. I just lost all my weight. So, as you guys are aware, 64 kg now. I'm leaner than I was at 60 kg in that photo over there. Initially, when I followed this approach, how I simply did it was, I would not focus on my macros, I would just focus on calories. So anything in sight that I could eat, I would eat. I was eating the most processed food. I did not care as long as the calories was high. It could have been pot noodles to processed McDonald's, anything went as long as my calorie goal was hit. I would only recommend this approach if you are extremely underweight or your appetite is super low. Only use it to get past that initial obstacle. Once you're past that, you should revert to the process I'm going to cover in this video. The way you should approach meeting your calories and macros should be through the least amount of processed food available, and preferably whole foods. What this will allow for you to do is pack on muscle mass without putting on so much unnecessary fat. And another benefit to this is, because you're eating healthier food, overall you will feel better than if you were to completely be consuming processed foods. In this image I weighed 60 kg, in this image I weighed 64 kg. The only difference is the quality of food I'm consuming. A key trick that I've implemented to make sure I hit my daily surplus is very simple. You guys may have heard of the term win your mornings. This is from Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. So the way in which I implement this is very simple. You want to consistently wake up at early time, whatever that is for you. For myself personally, because of this job, I wake up around 4:30, 4:20 a.m. every day.
Right now it is 6:56. I'm at work, just arrived to my first stop.
So what this allows is two things, right? Two main important things. Number one, because you're up so early, you'll be burning more calories, but that will also mean naturally your appetite will be higher. Number two, your circadian rhythm regularity will be improved. What this means is improved sleep quality, which means better recovery. And better recovery ultimately means when you go to the gym, you can push yourself much harder and you get more bang for buck for the gym session. I'll address this point further on in this video. Bulking is expensive. I used to be one of the people that used to say that, and I used to very firmly believe that was the only way about it. However, it was quite ironic because at this point in time I was having about a McDonald's meal basically every day, and that cost about £13. Like my signature meal was a double quarter pounder meal with a hot chocolate large, right? And I'd sometimes get apple pie on the side. It comes up to about £12-13. And if you had that 7 days a week, at some point I did, like, don't charge me, okay? Like, I was dirty bulking, that's what you would call it. And that comes to about £70. My weekly shopping now for me to eat clean and have my 3 core meals only comes to £55 a week. So think about that. The cost of one meal every single day, now I can spread that across the whole week as 3 meals. And the best benefit about this as well is, you could have very similar fast food just made at home and you know exactly what's going in there. And cooking is just a good life skill to have anyways. So if you believe bulking is expensive, what I suggest you do is cut out as much of the takeout as you can and try to focus on cooking your core meals. I will be covering my core meals later in this video. You guys can simply copy it. And like I said, it costs me about £55 a week. Obviously, this doesn't include the seasoning, condiments, etc. because you buy that stuff and it lasts more than a week. So, on to the next point. You don't need over 8 hours of sleep. This one is going to be quite controversial. And let me just put this out there. If you are able to get more sleep in without sacrificing other elements of this, great. However, What I realized is, since I'm working 10-hour shifts practically every day of the week, that leaves me with 14 hours in the day. And if I'm sleeping 8 hours every single day, I'm only left with 6 hours to eat, sleep, and work on anything outside of gym and work. So the simple way I've approached this over the past 5 months is very simple. On the days where I have work to get done, I'll prioritize it and I would sacrifice 1 to 2 hours of sleep. So that would mean bare minimum, the sleep I'd be getting every single day is 6 hours. I've been using this, which is just a Whoop. It measures my sleep. And I'll show you guys my average for the last 5 to 6 months has basically been about 6 hours of sleep, sometimes even less than that. And even though that has been the case, I have steadily been making progress. Part 2, the diet. For the past 5 months, I've been running this diet. The best part about this diet is the fact that you have 4 meals a day, and those 3 meals are fixed, and the 4th one you can practically have anything. There's just a few key rules you have to follow when it comes to the 4th meal. The primary focus of this diet is always hitting your protein goal before even hitting your calories, because the 3 core meals will practically always smash out both of those goals anyway, but bare minimum you're always hitting your protein goal. The reason for this is, because you're training hard, you want to always make sure that your muscles have enough protein to be rebuilding and recovering with. At 140 pounds currently, I should be aiming for 140 grams of protein. But since the start of this, I've always aimed for about a minimum of 150 grams of protein. My 3 core meals easily smashes this out the park, and I get about 170 grams of protein. So just keep watching and I'll cover that in a moment. The 4th meal that I have throughout the day, I usually have around lunchtime. And this meal, the key rule is very simple. You want it to have at least 15 to 20 grams of protein, and you want it to be relatively healthy. It doesn't have to be super healthy, but just avoid stuff such as a sugary milkshake. Just anything that's just full of sugar and no like other macros which is healthy, just avoid it. Try to at least get protein, carbs, which is reasonable. Like, don't just be having a donut because it's carbs. Like, for example, I go to a chicken shop and I get chicken and chips. I mean, it is processed, but because the other 3 meals are healthier, this just gets a little bit of surplus of more calories and more protein. I eat this way 90% of the time, or 6 out of 7 days of the week, sometimes even 7 days a week. When it comes to your diet, there are a few key principles that you must follow, which is what I will cover now. You must hit your protein goal even on your cheat days. So on the days where you're not having your core meals, you still need to hit your minimum amount of protein. Number 2, 90% of the food you eat must be minimally processed, better if they're not processed at all. Number 3, you want to make sure that you hit your minimum 3 core meals. So even if you don't have your 4th meal on certain days, bare minimum, the 3 core meals, you must hit them every single day, aside from your cheat days obviously. This is to ensure that you're always steadily increasing your weight and your protein goal is just guaranteed to get hit. Here is a quick summary of my main 3 core meals that I have throughout the day. So for breakfast, I have a mashed gainer shake, which contains mashed gainer powder, oats, peanut butter, and whole milk. Second meal of the day would be usually around lunchtime, where I have either chicken and chips or anything that comes under the 20-gram rule of food for the 4th meal. The 3rd meal of the day, I've tended to stick to chicken and rice, which is about 250 grams, 200 grams of chicken with 250 grams of rice, comes up to about 800 calories. Or you can have 20% fat mince. The reason you have higher fat mince is because it is more calorie dense, so that's the reason you do that. I have about 250 grams of mince. I have that as a burger with brioche buns. So on to the last meal of the day. You can have 6 to 8 eggs. You can have them however you like. Initially I was having it scrambled. Now I just drink it because it's easier to consume that way for myself personally. And overall, just the 3 core meals come to about 2.5k calories. The 4th meal will take you anywhere between 3k to 3.2k. So that's the quick summary of my meals that I have. If you do want to go more in depth into how I create the shake or anything along those lines, just let me know in the comments and I will do that. This meal plan that I do follow is very simple to follow, simply because 2 out of 4 meals I have as liquid, the mashed gainer shake and the eggs. The other 2 is just solid food, which is very easy to consume. Part 3, the training. I used to train 6 days a week and expect to build a bulky physique. Like, I wanted to have width from a side profile. However, not eating enough and training like a madman did not lead to that. I was stuck at 54 kg for 7 months. Since I was skinny, the additional volume and inadequate fuel led to minimal progress. I now only train 3 times a week, and this allows my body to fully recover between each session, and every time I do go train, I'm able to take it close to failure or beyond failure. Because we are working a full-time job, finding the time to make sure that you get the calories in, meal prepping, etc., you do need to work around it, and this is what worked perfectly for me. Dropping my sessions out 3 times a week. The training split you follow doesn't necessarily matter, as long as, bare minimum, you follow very simple rules which I will cover. Your compound movements must always come first before any isolation movements. For example, always do your bench press before you go do tricep extensions. Number 2, your last set must be taken as close to failure as possible, and for example, on isolation movements, utilize partials to take yourself beyond failure. For our raises, the range of motion will be reduced, but keep repping it out. This will help further stimulation of your muscles for growth. Number 3, allow 1 full day, so 24 hours in between training sessions. This is just to allow your body to recover so you're able to go and hammer again in your next session. Number 4, train your compounds like a powerlifter. What I mean by this is take longer breaks in between your compound lifts, and in your isolations, train it like a bodybuilder. You want to give yourself shorter breaks and you want to work on a higher volume basis. This is all I have for you guys in regards to training. If you guys want to go more in depth into my training style, just let me know in the comments below. I'm going to suggest a few more points in regards to my lean bulk and what I have noticed. After putting on 10 kgs for my initial weight gain, I have noticed the fat gain is starting to slightly creep in. This is completely normal because when you're eating a caloric surplus, your body will start to create some fat on the side because you have excess calories. This is inevitable, but you have 2 options when you come to this point. Number 1, you can cut out that 4th meal, so this way you reduce the caloric surplus, you're still hitting your protein and you're still in a slight surplus. This will slow down your overall weight gain, but will also reduce the amount of unnecessary fat that you're putting on. Or number 2, which is what I'm currently following, I'm going to carry on bulking, carrying it the same exact way till I reach about 70 kilos, which is another 6 kg from now, because I believe that will put me in roughly about 20% body fat region, and I'll go and I'll proceed with a cut after that. The reason I'm doing this is because it is the fastest way to pack on muscle mass, and if you know how you're going to cut down after, it's not necessarily an issue. That's all I really have for you guys today. This is very simple to follow. It's not going to be easy, but just know if you can imagine yourself, you can have it. So I'll catch you guys in my next video.